In this video, I'm going to share what a spiritual awakening really looks like by sharing a little bit of my own personal journey. First, I'm going to share my own personal experience and what happened to me that sparked my spiritual awakening. And then I'm going to share the 7 components that I observed in myself and also in many of my clients and mentors and colleagues that I've also witnessed along the way. Now, if you're like most people, you may have a belief or an idea or concept of a spiritual awakening as being this beautiful, amazing, feel-good experience, all rainbows and unicorns. And I'm sure that some people have that experience, but that was absolutely not my experience. Now, my experience is far from universal. In fact, one of the things that I believe about spiritual awakenings is that they're highly personal and individual, and your path is your path and exactly how it's supposed to be. But I will share with you what mine looked like. So before I tell you about the actual awakening part of the experience, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. I grew up in a very strict household, a very loving household, and a very strict one where I was expected to be a really good girl all the time. And one of the ways that I did that, one of the ways that I got my needs met as a child and got the love and attention that I craved was by being perfect. And what that looked like was getting straight A's in school, doing what I was told, and basically following the rules, at least on the surface. Now, because of all that control and strictness, I also had a rebel side. I also had a side that I hid from the world. It was the side of me that wanted to play, wanted to party later on in life, and wanted to goof off. So I had these kind of 2 competing personas. And I kept my business life and my personal life very separate. And pretty much in my entire career and business life had kind of a mask on, a mask of success, achievement. I've got it all together. I don't have any problems. And then on the other side, because no one has it all together and everyone has problems, I had the part of me that would let loose because I couldn't really express myself fully in my career, in my job, to my family. I had this other side. I would blow off steam by drinking, by partying, by doing all sorts of things that really were not conducive to my health or my well-being. Not physically and not emotionally either. And where that landed me ultimately was in a really bad relationship. A lot of my girls and boys, guys, girls on here can relate to this, but I ended up in a relationship where I was really not happy, but I didn't want to admit that to myself. Long story, very short, I discovered that this person that I was in a relationship with, after 2.5 years, I discovered that he was a con artist. He was a liar. He was a cheater. He'd made up job trips and business job titles. He'd made up bank accounts. Like, he had lied about pretty much everything in our relationship from day one. And I didn't realize it. I didn't catch it. And so that sparked this deep dive down into what I call my dark night of the soul. And it was in that dark night of the soul that for the first time I opened up, my heart opened, and I allowed myself to feel the worst of it, to feel the emotions, to recognize that I had done this to myself. So there was a lot of self-blame, there was a lot of shame, there was anger, there was complaint. This lasted for weeks. And because it was the first time in my life that I really allowed myself, and I don't really think I had much of a choice, to just fall apart. And in that process of falling apart, I let other people see me fall apart. My parents saw me fall apart, my best friend, my brother. And for the first time in my life, I was kind of cracked open and vulnerable. And it was the worst experience. It was horrible. I never want to go through that again. And it's exactly what my higher self, my soul, needed to allow me to step into a new version of me, into a new version of my life, into meaning and ultimately joy and fulfillment. It was the spark that allowed me to start seeking spirituality, opening up to the idea that maybe there's more than just success and achievement and appearances. That opening, cracking open, gave me the opportunity to receive love from people in ways that I never had before. I'd assumed that I had to be perfect for my parents to love me, but here I was fallen apart, and my parents flew into town to support me and stayed with me for a month to help me heal. My brother jumped in to save the day and hired a U-Haul to move my things out of this guy's house. Like, all these people came to support me, and I realized that they loved me just as much. I didn't lose anything in the process. So ultimately, this experience, as painful, unexpected, messy, and difficult as it was the opening to a whole new version of me. What came out of that experience was a new connection to myself, a new commitment to not stand with myself in a lie ever again, because there was a part of me that knew that this relationship was not good, but I had put the blinders on, put my head in the sand, didn't want to look at it. I kept drinking, I kept trying to avoid and distract, working, doing things that allowed me to not pay attention to how bad this had gotten. And so I made that commitment to never again do that to myself, to never again stand with myself in a lie. It's where I reached out to mentors and allowed myself to learn about growth and personal development. It was where I allowed myself to forgive him and forgive myself for what happened, and ultimately even become grateful for the experience. I honestly would not change it for anything in the world, because this came out of it. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't be sharing this story. I wouldn't be on YouTube. I wouldn't be doing the work that I do. I wouldn't have the success that I have, even. The crazy part about it is, the irony of all of it is that I'm more successful now, quote unquote, successful, more money, more whatever, all the things that people think of when they think of success, than I was 10 years ago, when I thought that I was doing all these things to get successful. So it's just incredible to me how this one experience opened up so much. By the way, I'd love to hear about your spiritual awakening and see what parallels or differences there are with my journey. So please put a comment below, and also while you're at it, why don't you subscribe and like to my channel. I look forward to hearing from you. So here are the characteristics that I observed in my own experience that I think are pretty universal, or at least generalizable to a broader population. The first is that it was unexpected. I didn't plan it. I had no intention of having a spiritual awakening. And I certainly didn't know what was happening to me. If you had asked me if this was the beginning of a spiritual awakening, I would have said, are you kidding me? First of all, at the time, I was an atheist, a self-avowed atheist. I didn't even believe in anything beyond the concrete, physical here and now. Number two, my awakening, and many of the ones I've seen, were messy. They were ugly. They were not pretty. They were not like that kind of awakening. Although, like I said earlier, I'm sure some people have that. But for me, the access to my awakening was to go down first, was to go what I call, and what my mentor calls, into the basement. I had to go all the way down and clear out decades of programming, decades of resentments, decades of blame and complaint. When I opened my heart in that basement and all the way broken down, there were things that came out from childhood. There were experiences that I processed that I'd never processed before. And so it was super messy, super uncomfortable, not beautiful in any traditional sense of the word. That said, now that I've had this experience, I do plan these opportunities. When I am feeling something, when I am in a situation that's uncomfortable or hurts, I know now to take time, to set aside time, and to actually go there, to lean into that discomfort, and even to some degree to intensify it, to allow it to move through and out of me. So because I did all that work 8 years ago, let all that loose, let it out. Now I just do these episodes as they come up, instead of saving it all and locking it all away and having to have a huge explosion like a volcano. Number 3 is it was painful. I said it was my dark night of the soul. It was no fun, and it wasn't something that I would look forward to going through again. That said, I now know that there's wisdom in the pain. There's wisdom in feeling all the feelings and allowing myself to go all the way in. The old me used to distract or avoid, She would eat something, she would drink something, smoke something, shop, buy something, all in an effort to feel better and not have to feel those feelings. The new me, when I feel the urge to suffocate an emotion, slows down, and every morning actually I take the time to just feel. What am I feeling today? How do I feel in this moment? And from being able to feel it, allowing that feeling to move through whatever it is. And usually on the other side of that is some sort of wisdom or new awareness. It was cathartic. Number 4, I cracked open all the way and unleashed decades of crap that I'd been storing inside. And on top of that, it helped me to be, number 5, vulnerable and allow my family, my friends, people around me to see me not perfect, to see me in a way that was different than the mask that I'd been wearing for years, which ultimately created more love, more connection, and more intimacy with people. 6, it was eye-opening. These awakenings can bring about new awarenesses. I realized that I didn't like the work that I was doing in the world. I realized that I didn't enjoy my business. I realized that I had created a jail for myself of work and workaholism. So from an experience like this, you might have new possibilities. You might see that you want to change careers. You want to try something new. You want to start your own business. So I highly encourage you to consider this type of experience as a catalyst for something new and beautiful in your life. And finally, it was absolutely liberating. It was liberating to know that I could go all the way there and come back. It was liberating to know that I could let go of all this stuff that had been weighing me down for years. And it's liberating to know that you have the power, that I had the power to change my life and do whatever I wanted to do. And I invite you to consider the same. I hope that this was helpful for you. I shared my own story in the hopes that it would spark you to embark on your own journey, whether you're already on your journey of awakening, but some new techniques, some new tactics, some new skills that you might be able to tap in to further that journey along. And if you're looking to go deeper and to build your business around these types of spiritual practices and principles, let's connect. You can find me at superstardiscoverycall.com.